Forward, get to the gap. With MagMongoSlade. Shoot. He don't miss.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. We got an article here from Post Wrestling / WrestleNomics by Brandon Thurston. The title of it is What Lee Fitting's Hiring Says About the New WWE and Nick Khan. And it is about exactly what you may think it is about. WWE hiring Lee Fitting and another executive who have been accused of impropriety, let's say, in the past. And we're going to go through this, but ask this question in your mind. We went through the article about what Lee Fitting reportedly did, and I got agitated as I was reading it because it was a bunch of he said, she said stuff. It wasn't anything really actionable. It was just a bunch of mild complaints over the course of who knows how many years. But I'm not going to read this entire article. I'm just kind of going to read the setup, and then we're going to go into his thoughts. So he says, by January 2024, Fitting resurfaced as WWE's new head of production. It wasn't a surprising hire. Fitting played a key role on one of the most popular pregame shows on television. That would be College Game Day. WWE President Nick Khan is deeply connected to the sports media world. When he was CAA agent, his clients included many ESPN personalities and Game Day on-air talent like Kirk Herbstreit and Tom Rinaldi. But Fitting's hiring, now that we know why he left ESPN, raises questions about how serious Khan is about reforming WWE's culture and reputation following perhaps the biggest scandal in the company's history. Fitting's hiring would be questionable enough if this wasn't Khan's first hiring of an executive with a history of alleged sexual misconduct, and if Khan hadn't so readily expressed loyalty to Vince McMahon after he tried to return from disgrace in 2023. In 2017, Jamie Horowitz was fired from Fox amid allegations of sexual harassment. Horowitz's attorney lamented he'd been treated unfairly. Fox described his termination as fully warranted, but by June 2021, Khan brought Horowitz into WWE as Executive Vice President of Digital and Development. Horowitz stayed on until the late 2023, leaving after WWE's merger with the UFC. So he brought this guy up who doesn't even work there anymore. Now, we see what the framing of this conversation is that, the company hasn't changed at all. But my question is, if Lee was fired, he wasn't arrested for anything. Let's say he was fired from his job for the stuff that they say he did. Isn't that the punishment? Isn't the punishment that he lost that job? Should he never work in television again? Should he never work again? There was a question I asked myself when during the Speaking Out stuff, Joey Ryan was canceled, right? And Joey Ryan he's a scumbag. I mean, it is what it is. We all know that. But what happened is he left wrestling eventually. And I think he was working at like Disney World or, some kind of water park or something like that. And people was taking pictures of him saying, oh, Joey Ryan is working at this water park or something. And I'm like, so what? The guy still needs a job. He still has to feed his family if he has one or wants to have one, or basically just feed himself. He wasn't arrested for anything. There's nothing criminal on his jacket or anything like that. It's a guy who commits some kind of social foible. Does he never get to work again? Ever? Like, how long does the punishment last? Because if we want to say this, we want to pull these kind of rules. Let's look at it from an even more egregious perspective. Booker T. If you want to hold Lee Fitting to he should never work again, then apparently Booker T should never have a job, right? Booker T went to prison for robbery, admitted that he did it. Not that he didn't do it, but that he did do it. MVP went to prison for robbery. Should these guys never work in the wrestling business because they had went to prison before? No, people get over it. You served your time. It's over. All right? I think that's fair. Now, it's not pedophilia. These guys literally did go to prison. It's over. If Lee Fitting put in all that effort to build College Game Day, and then some whisper network was able to take his job away and then gave it to a woman, because of course they did, isn't that the punishment? That he lost his ESPN job? Now, he fell on his feet. He just happened to have a good buddy in WWE who said, hey, come on over here and we'll make you an executive producer for us. He managed to do okay for himself. There's tons of guys who ends up in Lee Fitting's position who don't just lose their jobs, but end up losing everything, their entire careers, on the word that some woman took something he said out of context and was offended. Do these people never get to work again? Ever? And then, what sense does it make if you are running a company to know that there's a guy out there who is incredibly talented and good at his job, but we're not going to use him because of some rumors and gossip that followed him around? Not anything he actually got arrested for, but just rumors and gossip. It's a similar situation that we got here with Tessa Blanchard. We've been talking about Tessa Blanchard the last couple of weeks. It's the same thing with her, right? It's like, when do people get over shit? When do you let stuff go? You know what I'm saying? If nobody went to prison, then it obviously wasn't a crime. And you don't have to like it. But there's a very few things that I think that losing your job is the punishment. And unless you... Now, you could say, well, he abused that position. He could abuse this position too, or something like that. Like, yeah, he could. But we have to cross that bridge when we come to it. Just like, hey, Booker T could have not been doing so well in WCW and went back to robbing people, but he didn't. So, sometimes the past can predict the future. Sometimes it can't. Again, there are certain behaviors in which a guy did not get arrested that I would say you probably shouldn't want him on your show. And I'm talking about people like Marty Scurll. He didn't get arrested. He didn't go to jail. But I don't think you should be hiring Marty Scurll. But if Marty Scurll works at, a grocery store or a gas station, or he goes into real estate or something like that, I don't think that somebody should be running around trying to get him run away from his new job either. The guy has the responsibility to take care of himself. We can't just create this social freezing where guys cannot take care of themselves and their families anymore because of gossip and whispering, even if some of the stuff is true. Not everybody is going to be as blessed and as lucky, to be quite honest, as Lee Fitting. He's very lucky. But let's continue, because I've been rambling enough. He says, WWE's decision to hire Fitting to such a prominent position less than a year later raises obvious questions about the company's priorities. If reporter Andrew Marchand indicated something was afoul immediately after Fitting's firing in 2023, and if the Atlantic could source more than 20 women to learn more about his exit, it's hard to imagine Khan, one of the most well-connected figures in sports media, didn't know why he was fired, or couldn't easily find out. WWE was indeed aware of why Fitting left ESPN, according to the PW Insider. They sourced 20 women. None of them went on record. All of it was gossip. The guy worked there for a long time. He's had more contact with more than 20 women. Did they attempt to contact anybody who said that these women were exaggerating? Did they fully investigate this? Or did they just say, I heard this, can you confirm? Oh yeah, I can confirm that. Did they look and try to find anybody who said that these things didn't happen? No, that's not what these investigations or these I was about to call them lynchings, but I don't want to use that terminology. That's what all of these witch hunts are all about. It's about, we're going to make a statement and then we're going to find people, no matter how far we got to dig, because we don't know, we're talking about people who sat right next to him, people who were janitors. We don't know if these people have personal beefs with him or not, or whatever the case may be. We don't know because we're not doing any research. We're just asking questions and then getting the confirmation that we want, and then we write an article. Period. I don't trust the media. All right? The media is whack. That doesn't mean the media is always wrong. It just means that I always have a questionable eye when I read an article. And then I have a doubly questionable eye when I read an article that targets somebody. And then my third eye has to be open when I'm reading an article that's about somebody and is critical of them, and then all the sources are anonymous, and you couldn't find one person to say these things did not happen, or you did not find anybody, because you probably didn't look, to counteract any of this stuff. So then when you got to have a big brain with your third eye open when you realize the words power dynamics are going to show up in that article. Now I'm fully woke. All right. You try to put me to sleep with all of your narratives about sexual harassment and impropriety and all this kind of stuff. And then I started seeing the power dynamics and yada, 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 and hysterical handshaking. Now I'm like, come on, get real. All right. But everything that is told to you is not true. All right. Just because I can't prove that it's not true, because I'm not about to do the research to look into this, but I can pretty much tell you Lee Fitting worked with more than 20 people. So if you I found 20 people over the course of how long he worked there, what about all the other people who worked there? Because those 20 people weren't the only ones who worked with him. They probably, and if he said some of this stuff was supposedly he said in public, what did other people think about that question or that statement or whatever? Did we get into that? But ultimately, these guys want to look. Brandon Thurston is. We're going to talk a little bit about why I think he's writing this article. I don't want to impugn his motives before he fully lays out what he wants us to say. But I do question his motives for writing this article. So he says, he continues by saying, what other conclusion can be made than that being fired for your previous job for creating a toxic work environment for women at least isn't a deal breaker when being considered for one of the top executive roles in WWE in early 2024, with headlines of McMahon's alleged abuse in the recent past and worse headlines in the near future. What do you mean in the near future? How do you know there's going to be worse headlines? So he goes into the Janelle Grant stuff. We're gonna skip over that. We should come back to it, but now we're just gonna go ahead and skip over it. He says the history of wrestling in many ways is a history of people in charge trying to ignore what everyone else is thinking. The new era of WWE is so far no different. He starts talking about Chris LeGentile and Paul Levesque and Bruce Pritchard. Then he says, under Khan's leadership, WWE has become more profitable than ever. Yet despite the deals, profits, and symbolic gestures, there's little to publicly suggest the company is all that serious about changing its culture. Khan's polished and affable image as a deal maker, beloved by the sports media he enriched, distracts from his role in upholding pro wrestling's time-honored tradition of not letting sexual abuse allegations get in the way of business. It's hard to find anything Khan has said or done in public that offsets his actions regarding Fitting and Horowitz, and both his actions and statements regarding McMahon. Khan has rarely addressed McMahon scandals publicly, and when he has, it's among other topics with media friendlies like Bill Simmons and Matt Baloney, who know enough about WWE to be fascinated by its exciting business and to giggle at its zany form of entertainment, but not enough to question whether there are any ethics at the heart of Khan's leadership. So he's saying that Nick Khan is unethical. It's unethical for you to hire a guy who, quite frankly, changed ESPN because some people gossiped about him and got him fired. Not he got arrested for, squeezing the secretary's ass or anything like that. There's no rape charges. There's nothing like that. It's literally words. Literally words. And he should never work again. You're not allowed to offer him. It's unethical for you to offer him a job. Very weird. Let's continue. He says, on the other hand, maybe WWE president, another of his savvy calculations, observed that genuinely raising the company's standards isn't worth the effort. Don't you hear the indignity in his writing? He's so indignant, so morally righteous, that raising the company's standards isn't worth the effort. And that hiring someone like Fitting to a top job in WWE was too good to pass up, even though WWE reportedly knew why Fitting left ESPN. He repeats this, but he doesn't have any kind of substantial evidence of this. He says, oh, it's PW Insider. We're quoting them. Oh, okay. Did PW Insider talk to somebody in WWE? I like PW Insider. Did Brandon Thurston talk to somebody in WWE about whether they knew why Lee Fitting lost his job? He didn't say that in this article. Didn't say he reached out and asked Triple H or WWE PR or anybody if they knew why Lee Fitting was fired. He's assuming they did because it fits his narrative. Because his article is all about nothing's changed, just business as usual. It's a boys club with a bunch of guys sitting around slapping girls on the ass, talking about, hey, come suck my cock. This stereotype that they've got in their minds that they're working with here. And we got 2 more paragraphs of this thing. This is a very long article that I shaved down. He continues writing, after all, this is pro wrestling. Where still more than the rest of the world, abuse often doesn't have real consequences for those who cause or enable it, especially if they're powerful. There's that word. Fans are largely indifferent, media is mostly oblivious, and business partners care only so much as headlines force them to. So firing Fitting isn't out of step with WWE's long-standing openness to leaders who may cultivate a hostile workplace for women or others. You might think the new Vince McMahon free WWE will work hard to distance itself from being seen as a refuge for those accused of harassment and abuse. But maybe Nick Khan knows that not enough people really care about that. Maybe he doesn't either. Okay. So, here's the article. Nick Khan is unethical. He doesn't really care about victims. He doesn't try to make the business comfortable for victims, or he thinks that nobody cares. Maybe he just doesn't care. I get it. Here's my thing, and this is the one I want post-wrestling and WrestleNomics to do. I want to be one of 2 things. Either if you are going to be the media outlet for Janelle Grant, you should just say that. And if you're being paid or something like that, you should absolutely, positively go ahead and disclose that. Because post-wrestling and WrestleNomics, they have had sit-down interviews with her attorneys. They have had numerous conversations with her attorneys, Q&As with her attorneys. They've had way too much access to Janelle Grant's attorneys for this article to then pop up out of nowhere, questioning now Nick Khan. Because again, one of the things that Janelle Grant's attorneys want is to argue about the WWE's culture. Now, I skipped this earlier because I wanted to get the general idea out. But here is this is the reason he wrote this article. He talks about Janelle Grant's lawsuit. He says the suit identified WWE corporate officer number 1, who Grant's attorney later confirmed is a pseudonym for Nick Khan, as an executive who she says was supportive of the CEO's relationship with the paralegal under his employ. While Grant did not accuse Khan of any direct abuse, she claimed he was aware of McMahon's relationship with her. That's why he wrote this article. Because they have been in constant conversation with this woman. Constant conversation. And it's all about helping her lawsuit. That's why he wrote this article. He is being a media organ for this Janelle Grant lawsuit. This has fuck all to do with Lee Fitting. It has almost everything to do with Nick Khan only because he works for WWE. And he wants to help them make money off WWE. And maybe, who knows? I'm not going to say he's going to get a kickback or something, but he gets a chance to be a hero, to be part of the story, if nothing else. People have to get out of their minds that money is always the goal. Money isn't always the goal. Sometimes status and virtue is the goal too. It's for you to be one of the good ones, and I can see, him and John Pollock wanting to be a couple of the good guys. They want all the female wrestling fans, all 12 of them that follow these accounts, to think that they're the good guys. We're going to help protect women and keep wrestling safe for women. Yeah, right. What you want is your name in the newspaper. You want to increase your status, because then maybe people will give money to Patreon and you'll make money some way. Even if you don't make money directly off of it, you'll make money indirectly off of it. It was the same thing with Bixen Span. Bixen Span kept writing articles about the Ring Boy scandal until the lawsuit popped up. And he kept, finding a way to write these articles, and almost no new information was scratched up. But he kept writing articles about it, kept talking about it, and made sure that when this lawsuit came out, that he was smack dab in the center of it. Because being a part of the media now is to make yourself the story. If for nothing else, you position yourself as a humble reporter just searching for the truth, and I came across this mountain of corruption, and here I'm going to bring it to the people so that everybody will know, not that this is an obsession of mine or that I'm trying to backdoor myself into some money. I mean, people wouldn't do this stuff if there wasn't no money in it. All right. They're not doing this purely for virtue, but virtue is part of it. All right. But I just think that if you guys are going to be an organ for Janelle Grant, you should have to disclose that. Right? You should say we're in constant conversation with them, or they're paying us, or our non-questioning of this attorney and all the weird stuff that they lied about in their lawsuit, and that that we're in constant conversation with them and didn't ask them any questions about it, is because we are half in the bag for them. All right. But here's the thing, and this is, I think, the strangest thing, is that they wouldn't lose anything if they said that, because they would imagine that's the right thing to do. They have deluded themselves into thinking that you believe all women are victims, all women are queens, and then you can You can side with them. You can write slanted articles about other people. And, it's not a surprise at all that you're in the bag for them. Of course you are. I'm on the side of victims. Now, these things are probably never going to get sorted out the way that we want to sort them out. The truth never really comes out. It's just really her story and his story and whatever happens in between. But my whole thing about these articles is why would you write this if you weren't trying to aid in some way the Janelle Grant lawsuit? This thing is probably bits and pieces of this are going to end up in future filings that Ann Callis is going to put out there. I can guarantee it, because part of the reason they're suing WWE is about the culture. And they're going to say, well, the culture hasn't changed. Look at what Nick Khan did with David Horowitz, a guy who used to work for Fox, and blah, 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 blah. It's going to end up in there, and it's going to end up sourcing this guy. And you're going to be like, oh, how is there this such incestuous relationship between these two? Because they're constantly in conversation. Constantly. I wouldn't be surprised if they're not helping each other. And it's, again, I'm not saying that they're taking money from the Janelle Grant team, but they will take that attention. They will take that attention for sure, because attention equals money. Virtue signaling equals money eventually. And not enough people care on the other side, because there's a lot of guys out there, especially if you don't like the guy anyway, you'll cut off the fingers to save the hand. Everybody hated Vince anyway. So the idea of people saying, I'm thinking this is kind of bullshit, or I don't like this thing here, or this jumps out at me as being weird. Nah, everybody's like, look, Vince is 80. He's a weirdo. I believe everything. So let's just dump on him. But the thing with Lee Fitting didn't stick, because nobody dislikes this guy. He works in WWE. Most people don't know what he looks like, and they don't know anything about him, and they're happy with the product right now. So ultimately, they don't really care about Lee Fitting or why he left ESPN. So they are 100% correct in that the audience does not care. The sponsors do not care. Ultimately, whatever happened between him and the good folks at ESPN, that stays at ESPN. It doesn't really carry over with him to WWE. And it's over. His ESPN tenure is over. What difference does that have to his WWE career? That would be like if Vince McMahon would have fired Booker T and said, you was a armed robber in the past. I'm not going to hire you. Everybody would have been looking like, what? He didn't rob anybody while he was on your roster, so why do you care? Which is strange. It says to me, and I know this is all BS. It's bullshit. These people believe in second chances, which is why I believe a lot of this stuff is more political and him trying to help the Janelle Grant lawsuit. Because he didn't write any articles about the safety of women in AEW when you got Don Callis, when he was an executive at TNA, and he was accused of sexually harassing Scarlett Bordeaux, who was the wife of Karrion Kross. He didn't write articles about that. That never comes up. That conversation never happens. Darby Allin, who's featured on television almost every week, was accused of harassing women or doing something untoward with a woman. That's never mentioned about AEW's culture towards women. That stuff doesn't come up. Chris Peck, an AEW legal, make a Perec in AEW legal, how they mishandle cases, maybe they get too close to a case. They don't write opinion pieces about them and their corporate culture. No, you don't get that. But you get another, now you want to target Nick Khan because it continues the narrative that WWE doesn't care about victims or sexual harassment or sexual assault or anything like that. And it's quite frankly sad, because you would think that if you truly cared, it would be anybody who was involved with something like this. But no, it's, WWE, we're going to talk about them. Oh, okay, fine. I'm going to sit back and await your article on Don Callis, because there's a reason why Karrion Kross and Scarlett left TNA and refused to go back, even when Kross got fired from WWE. They refused to go back. There was a reason for that. And then shortly thereafter, Don Callis left too. I think about a year or so later. So, and this was all well known when Don Callis joined AEW, that he might have been involved with that. And nobody did any investigations. But it's WWE now, so we're all super sleuths. We're a collection of Sherlock Holmeses and Dick Tracys all of a sudden. Get real. All right. This ain't shit but you trying to help the Janelle Grant lawsuit, bro. I see right through this. And I don't care about that. But be honest about it. You've been in contact with these people. They give you exclusive interviews. You get exclusive memos. You should basically have to admit that you are in constant conversation with them. And that you might be biased because you are in constant conversation with them. Because everything comes out in the wash anyway. And if you're allowing them to use you, you may get dragged into this damn thing. And I don't think they want that. Just report the facts, man. And look, I'm not saying that what he wrote is not facts. I'm just saying you might not want to get too close to this thing, because the media always wants to get super, super close to these stories, and then they're shocked when they get wrapped up in it, which is always sad because the things always blow up in their face. Remember, the Duke Lacrosse case just blew up in people's faces, and everybody who was jumping up and down on that, they all vanished like rats when the light came on. They all just scattered, hid under the tables, hid under the couch, disappeared, ruined some young guys' lives over some gossip that nobody thought to look into. It literally just happened that the woman admitted that it was fake. So there's that. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later.